All right. You're listening to the Deadman's Tome podcast. I'm your host, MrDeadman, and this is a show that's broadcast live from a trailer park deep in the heart of Meth County, Texas. With me tonight is Billy Stewart. How's it going, Mr. Stewart?
I am well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Doing great over here. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I always start off with who are you and what do you do? So let's take it from there.
It's the kindergarten cop question, right?
Yeah. Who's your father and what does he do?
All right. So let's see. Who am I? What do I do? So primarily I am a writer. I've got stories in several books. I got my own book coming out actually in about 3 days. It was supposed to have already been out on pre-order, but the Amazon driver lost my proofs. So I still have to get and approve the proofs in order to release my book. But those are coming out here in the next couple of days, and all of the links should be up pretty soon. I run 2 podcasts. One of them, my baby that I've been running from the beginning, is the Scary Dad podcast, where we talk about all things scary with my partner, Scott Fontenot.
That's right. That's right. I've been on there before. I've been on there once, I believe.
You've been on the Scary Dad podcast, and Scary Dad podcast turned into Scary Dad's Haunted Halloween Show, which is a horror event that we have in Houston. That would have been in our 4th year this year, but unfortunately, our 4th year got kicked into 2021, and which we'll talk about later. So during the quarantine, a friend of mine and I started a new podcast called You Know What's Awesome.
What is awesome?
We're both.
what is awesome?
Well, You Know What's Awesome is a couple of 40-ish year old guys talking about what was awesome when they were kids. So primarily the 80s. He's a fan of Scary Dad. He also runs a couple of podcasts of his own, like Hail Mean Power Hour and the Short Bus Cinema. Big movie fans, and we became friends through Texas Frightmare Weekend in Dallas.
Hey, that's
and so we've been friends for a couple of years, and then when this whole pandemic thing started, he and I were just chatting one day, and literally it started off like this, dude. Man, remember the Karate Kid? Karate Kid was awesome. When I was a kid, went over to a friend of mine's house, and we watched Karate Kid, and these were the 80s, so parents weren't always over your shoulder watching everything you did. So we watched Karate Kid, and after it was over, we went outside and hopped on the trampoline and, kicked the hell out of each other, kicked each other in the face for an hour, being,
right.
I'm Daniel, bah, And it was awesome, and nobody cared. We rode bikes without helmets. We did things without pads.
Oh, yeah.
We drank from the hose. So there was BMX bikes and skateboards, and there was RoboCop. And RoboCop was rated hard R for violence. Yet they made toys.
They made toys out of that.
You know what I mean? Like Rambo, same thing. So there was this thing in the 80s and 70s, 80s, 90s that kind of tapered off in the 2000s that was just this kind of weird microcosm of pop culture where everything you did and were was just kind of awesome,
Yeah.
Sure, there were days that sucked and there were things that sucked, but it was also when everything just sucked, you could turn on your radio and bands like Def Leppard and Bon Jovi were new. They weren't classic rock, so you weren't looking back. You could still kind of be, ooh, cool. So that's what What's Awesome's about. Scary Dad's been around forever, so it's just an enthusiastic, drama-free piece for the world that seems to be going to hell.
Hey, drama-free is a little bit of what we need right now. Everyone's doing drama stuff, I myself kind of walk that line every now and then. I'm like, nah, a little too much. Let's go back to having some fun. But yeah, it's awesome. I have not seen this before. I know I've been on your show before. We're kind of acquaintances. I mean, I've been to the convention, but not biased. You want to say it sounds awesome. It's awesome. Sounds awesome. And man, if that's it, you guys kind of reminisce on I guess. Member berries, I guess, nostalgia, but in a fun way. That stuff was fun. That stuff was great. If you guys started doing karate kicks from Karate Kid, what happened with Street Fighter? I mean, were y'all doing Hadoukens too?
Okay, so the reality is, so we started this conversation. We were on the phone, we were just chatting, and he's like, "Dude, that could have been a podcast episode." I was like, "Fine, let's do a podcast. Let's do our first 2 episodes." And that was right around the time that The Mandalorian was hitting pretty good. Well, we had The Mandalorian. We'd watched it, but we were talking Star Wars. So the first 2 episodes we recorded back to back was Mandalorian and Star Wars, and then we got off and we're like, "Okay, look. What can we talk about? We can talk about heavy metal. We can talk about video games. We can talk about skateboards. We can talk like it. Just kind of we just ran this whole list of subjects we could talk about without any research, without having to like watch a movie or listen to a band. We could just talk without any kind of
Nice.
prompting. And we were like, wow, like just in this 5-minute conversation, we could probably do a year of podcasting without any kind of anything but a microphone. So, I mean, we obviously do because we're both a little bit more professional than just screwing around. But, so we'll watch a movie. If we're going to talk about a movie, we watch the movie at least in that week before we record. But, it's just fun. And that's the whole point of it. And what's funny is we're both very, very big horror like we're both horror movie buffs. And so, but we don't really, I mean, it comes up every now and then, but we don't really talk about it. Not because we don't want to, but just because it just hasn't come up yet. So, but whenever we do, we're very enthusiastic.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like a great show. Now, one thing we're going to do tonight is talk about whether or not Rob Zombie is a hack or not.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's a subject that comes up pretty often, actually. It
is. It's been overdue. It's been some time that I needed to do this. It's finally happening. Okay. First off, it's pretty divisive. Some people love Rob Zombie's movies, and some people just flat out hate his movies. They think they suck. And we're going to kind of get into what's going on with that. Like, some people say he's a hack. All right. Well, I'll go put it this way. I'm kind of, depends on the situation, kind of indifferent. I don't know, but we're going to explore that. I think you and I are going to explore that together. And I have some questions for you. I got some questions that maybe, because I understand you are a #1 Rob Zombie fan. Is that right?
Pretty big, man. Not necessarily the movies, which we'll talk about later. But man, I saw I saw White Zombie in club shows in the early 90s. I think I saw them before I knew who they were, before they were on Beavis and Butthead, because even once they were on Beavis and Butthead, I was like, oh my god, they're awesome. But I think I saw them at a club show opening for somebody before that. It seems like not their thumping Lost Exorcisto beat, but like the thing before that. It might have just been on a little club show that I was at, and I could be wrong. I don't know. But all I know is that I've been a fan of White Zombie, Rob Zombie since I was in high school, basically. And they never disappointed. I've seen them live in club shows. I saw them in medium-sized shows. I saw them in stadium shows. I've seen them in the Run Back Around with Marilyn Manson a few years ago. Rob Zombie as a musician, as a showmaster, as a live performer is unparalleled. He's awesome. When it was when House of Thousand Corpses came out, it was kind of divisive because there was a lot of people that were metal fans and horror fans, and it came out and it almost seemed like it was a joke. You know what I mean? Like it was so over the top that it was like, okay, is this serious? But then you look back at his videos and be like, okay, well, it's him, right? Like that's what he does. So
okay,
we'll give it a pass. And then he got more serious with Devil's Rejects and Halloween on down the line, and the rest is history. But I'm a big zombie fan, and always have been.
So I think the first thing we need to do is define what is a hack. I mean, what is a hack? What is that? Some guy who just throws shit together to hope to make money off of it?
It has a couple different definitions. I think for one. There's two ways to look at it. First of all, in the world of writing, in the world of publishing, there's always been famous authors that used ghostwriters, or unnamed sorts of support editors or whatever. So a lot of times editors would fill in the gaps when a writer wouldn't come through, right? So back in the day, like even Mark Twain, for example, he once he became famous, he would sketch out an idea and he would throw it at one of his staff writers, and they would write the story, and then he would get the credit. And that writer was just a paid writer. He wasn't a, to use a literary, he was not an author. He was just a hired gun. And so that's what a hack means on one side. And on another is somebody who's not necessarily super talented, but just got lucky, pulled the right strings, maybe had a moderate hit, and just kind of held on to things without actually being that good.
Okay.
So whenever you look at the actual definition of a hack, then it's somebody that either is a hired gun that just shows up. So it doesn't matter if that hired gun shows up and writes freaking Macbeth. He was hired to do it. He had no real. He had nothing but a paycheck in mind, and he was not attempting to be artistic. He was just scribbling some notes. So a lot of like singer-songwriter type stuff. A lot of, especially like in the pop and country kind of world where you have a songwriter sitting in a cubicle writing 3 lines and then passing it over, and then that guy writes 3 lines, and then that lady writes 3 lines, and then in the end, some recording artist gets a hold of it, sings it.
Beyonce or whoever else,
right?
Britney Spears for singing it. Oh God, she's dated. Shows how old. But,
right.
Okay. But yeah, that's even with rock, even with like, let's say like, I'm sure we could think of some metal bands that maybe the guitarists, maybe they were more talented than what they showed, but it was like, do you only know a couple of chords, like Coal Chamber, and I loved them back in the day too. But I look at that, it's like, you guys kind of played like the same stuff over. Okay, all right, but hey, you made money.
You did. There's a lot of hack musicians and a lot of hack writers, and hack film movies. Like I would argue that Michael Bay is one. Like he found a formula that works. He makes a shitload of money doing it, and
yeah. See, if it's
a lot of people like him, but if you like his movies, but there's no real depth. Like you're not going to take that and compare it to the Joker, for example, as a. Which the Joker is a rehash taxi driver, so even those things could be comparatively whenever you're comparing art. But that is to say, you're not going to compare Taxi Driver to.
Let me ask you this:
Transformers.
Would Andy Warhol be a hack?
I think he's a self-aware one. I think he's somebody that maybe wasn't as talented as he either claimed to be or was being hailed as, and he knew it.
Yeah.
And so he kind of played the role of the.
It was for the money. If all I could do was draw like soup cans, be like, you guys think this is good art? You're gonna pay me? Okay. Cocaine is expensive. Okay.
And sometimes those guys get stuck up in their own head, like they think they start off being like, okay, I'm just gonna try something and see if it works, and then it works, and then all of a sudden there's people that show up to their art shows and tell them they're awesome, and you only need to be told you're awesome for so long before you start to believe you're awesome. Right. It doesn't necessarily mean you're good.
You know what I mean? Like, so if I got this right, it sounds like a hack is someone who kind of phones it in, kind of borrows heavily from other influences, a hired gun, someone who's kind of paid to be there, paid to do it. They may not have the talent to do it, but they sort of get by. Okay, with these things, this in mind, is Rob Zombie a hack? Is he exploiting his lack of talent or the talent that he has to produce mediocre stuff? Is that what's happening here? Is he borrowing heavily? Is he?
I don't think so. I think and it's funny because again you defined hack, but and then when you define artist too, it's like there's so many definitions of art and artist. But if you think of somebody like Zombie, that he has the skill, he has the eye, and he has the money, and he's got the support that he could be making mainstream movies, whether they're horror movies or not. He could have changed his name to something French and been making critically acclaimed art house movies, or he could be making mainstream box office.
Yeah, something more
movies,
mainstream.
Right?
Yeah, something more mainstream. You could be doing that.
He could do it. He's got the chops.
Now, did he do that a little bit with Halloween? Because before Halloween, he's quoted saying he doesn't want to do remakes, or I forgot what he said exactly, but he didn't want to do them. He wasn't happy about remakes. He wasn't fond of them. Wasn't looking forward to it. But eventually, he sung a different tune, right? When the money came.
I think. Whether it's the money, the offer, maybe he wanted to do something else, and it gave him the opportunity to do it. I mean, there are compromises, and obviously in the movie world, if you've ever watched a movie or a show like Entourage, which probably only just scratches the surface, where it's like, okay, if you do this one thing for us, then we'll let you do these three things that you want to do, and just kind of, the way contracts work and studios work and stuff, and he's no stranger to that world, and I'm sure that Halloween with a Rob, there was no way that Halloween with Rob Zombie's name on the marquee was going to fail. Like they could have spent $20 on it.
That's what Weinstein Pictures, what do they call it? That's what that's why they got him, because they knew. Yeah. I remember him. He said that he could have pitched anything. He could have pitched anything. They would have been okay with it. In fact, they were trying to push Rob Zombie to even make Halloween even more his thing, because they knew the combination Halloween and zombie was going to sell. It was going to sell.
It was absolutely going to sell. And whenever we're talking about whether it's not a hack move, I don't know if it was his choice specifically, or if that was what he was pushed to do, or if they're like, hey, look. Here's a bunch of movies that we want remade, and you just choose what you like, and that was his, favorite choice of what he was given. I don't know. What I do know is that when it comes to cinematography, when it comes to filming, when it comes to framing, storytelling, he's not bad. It's not bad. His characterization and his gritty portrayal, like his ultra violence, it's much, right?
You, my friend, are a very kind and generous person.
Maybe so. All I'm saying is, like, if you watching the movie, it's not one of those unsteady cam sorts of found footage things. Exactly. Like
he can hold.
He knows how to frame and direct a scene. That's not a problem. That's what I'm saying. Is I think that if he was more of a hack, then he would have chosen more mainstream sort of stuff to work with. I think my biggest thing with Rob Zombie is that. Are you familiar with the author Neil Gaiman?
Yes.
He wrote Sandman. He did Good Omens, which was on Amazon. So I went and saw him do a live speech, a live show where he talks about the life of a writer and author and all that stuff. And he says that when he was a child, that one of his goals in life was to have written Lord of the Rings. He didn't want to go back in time and steal the manuscript from Tolkien. What he wanted to do was go back in time and write it and be the one who had written it. And have his name on the top of the books and be the writer of Lord of the Rings, because he just thought that was the ultimate and high. It was to him the epitome of success. And I think that's true of Rob Zombie and Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, definitely. Right? House of 1,000 Corpses. I mean, that's the first film, right? And that's some people will say he's a hack because that's pretty much just how the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm. And that's true, but he wasn't satisfied with how Stout Corpse because it's not the 1970s Tobe Hooper movie with Gunnar Hansen as Leatherface. That is the movie that he wants his name on top of.
Right.
It's impossible without a time machine and killing a bunch of people, but that's who Rob Zombie wants to be. Okay. Now you take Tobe Hooper, who made Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that guy wanted to be Steven Spielberg, right?
Mm-hmm.
And almost he had his chance, like Poltergeist was directed by Tobe Hooper, but was kind of taken over by Steven Spielberg. But those guys were in the same room a lot. Tobe Hooper was trying to move up and out, like he not necessarily. He didn't necessarily want to be pigeonholed in horror. He had made an awesome independent horror movie that would hopefully open the doors for him to become a mainstream director. Didn't really happen, but that's what he wanted. Rob Zombie wants to go back in time and be the guy who made Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Does that
hang that over his mantle and retire? And be like, I made Texas Chainsaw Massacre, now I can die happy. That to me is who Rob Zombie is. That's his intent, and that's what he does when he makes movies.
So his intent is to emulate what he likes.
That is the truth.
Does that make him more of a hack or less of a hack?
I think it makes him less of one. Because if he was doing things that he didn't want to do just to make the money, then that would be almost the dictionary definition of a hack.
Wow.
And so he's got the money.
The Halloween. That might take us back to the Halloween because I understand he was reluctant to do that in number 2. In fact, he was like, "Okay, I'm not doing the second one." I think there was an interview where he said he's not doing the second one, but the person who played Michael Myers was like, "Oh, that's weird because we signed on for two movies, bro."
Yeah. And that's another thing about him, and like I said, is as far as the weird definition of artists, like Zombie was on Joe Rogan, and he's talking about how like he got an enormous amount of pull by being in rooms with people who were trying to make deals, and he said that he was standing there with his sunglasses and his beard and his hat. Nervous as all hell, like just really having nothing to say. He didn't know what to say. But because he was quiet, they're like, okay, let's sweeten the deal. You know, like they kept
he's
like
quiet and he has the sunglasses.
Up in the ante. Yeah, they kept up in the ante on him. So where by the time he's like, dude, I was ready to take the first deal, and by the third deal, I was like, I was so thoroughly shocked. I was like, well, shit, let's just hold out for the fourth deal. Like, at this point, because so I think too, whether it comes to records, and touring, and talking with people, and all, just different things, there comes a point where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna make the movies I want to make. Like, and you hear about this, like people who either left acting, maybe they were a high-powered lawyer, and they just quit being a high-powered lawyer and became a gardener. Started running a comic book store out of their house or something. I don't know. But people sometimes just kind of be like, you know what? I don't really care. If I want to make this movie, I will secure the funding. I'll make it. I'll put my friends in it. I'll release it. It'll be profitable. It'll buy me half a house. And if it buys me half a house, then I'll make another one in 2 years. And I'll buy the other half of the house. Most people spend 30 years building, buying a house. I'll buy an awesome one in 4. So it's like, but he doesn't. He has the ability. He has the talent, the money, the resources to make Love Actually if he wanted to.
Rob Zombie would Love Actually. That would be something. That would be something.
I think he could. I think he could. Now he would have to. He'd have to ditch his wife. He'd have to ditch like the Well, Sid Haig's gone. Sid Haig is awesome. So I'm not gonna.
He's good. That's the next thing I want to lead into. Since we're already on that. Why does Rob Zombie always cast his wife, Sherry Moon? And why is he always constantly showing off her posterior? I get it. He thinks she's really attractive. I guess she is. I like my ladies with some extra, a rack and extra ass, but that's just my preference. But it's like he wants us to know that he's her pimp or something. Like, what's going on there?
I think it's hard. He knows.
I'm just
No, you didn't. I had to think about it for a second because, like I said, with him coming out and saying like, "Oh man, I was so nervous. I was just standing there like I just." He's a guy, man. He's got the long hair, he's got the dreads and the hat and like the gravelly voice. But in the end, he's just a punk rock kid. He's an older one now, but he's just a punk rock kid, and nobody, like all of the big hair and the red lights and the smoke. It's all just for show. You know what I mean?
So
like
maybe it's not that he's a hack.
he wants everybody to know he's got a girlfriend and that she's hot. And that, that's a teenage sort of thing to say, but that's at the end of the day, like, hey, look at this hot blonde that's hanging out with me, and I'm this ugly guy. You know what I mean? Like I'm this ugly metal geek with Texas Chainsaw Massacre posters in my room, and this hot blonde chick comes over to my house and makes out with me. I'm gonna show this to everybody. And it just never went away.
Okay.
Or she gets mad when he leaves the house, so he says, "Okay, well then come on with me."
Yeah, that could be it. That could be it.
There's two sides of every story. I don't know.
Two sides. I mean, so you could say he's like a teenager. He's just like a teenager who just never grew out.
I think he has to be.
So you think like when he got the deal to make Halloween and Halloween 2, like maybe he was in over his head a little bit, like he wasn't really ready for that, but he took it anyway?
I don't know if he was in over his head as much as he was trading the opportunity to do other things that he wanted to do. Like to simplify it, if it's just straight up money, if you're like, I don't want to do this. Like, okay, we'll give you $100,000. You're like, I don't want to do it. You're like, I'll give you $500,000. I don't want it. They're like, we'll give you $4 million. You're like, okay, you probably had me at $100,000, but it was kind of a chore. But at $4 million, I think I'm in. Right? Like, I think I can make it work. And I don't know what the budget for Halloween was, but I do know that if he was so adamant against doing something he didn't want to do, and he ended up doing it, that more than likely the payoff was enough that he's like, okay, well, hell, if with this much money I can make 31 and Hordes of Salem and Devil's Rejects 2, and like I can do like 8 movies for that. Fucking hell, Texas Chainsaw Massacre only cost $500,000.
But
if I got $4 million, I can make 8 of them.
I think we're giving him too much of a fair shake here. Come on now. Look. Let me go down here. Look, he's a hack. Look, a hack uses the same actors over and over again because he knows he can't work with anybody else. What do you say about that?
Quentin Tarantino is multiple. Is he a hack? Brooks. I wouldn't call him one. Carpenter. Kurt Russell's been in like half of his movies.
You mean to tell me there's other directors that reuse the same actors over and over again in all their movies?
Those are just three off the top of my head. So no, I think Zombies found a little.
Does Kevin Smith reuse the same actors a lot?
You want to talk about a hack?
Oh, he threw his wife and didn't he throw his wife in Clerks too?
Yeah. I like Kevin Smith.
I do too.
But I do think that and not to change the subject from Zombie, but I do think Kevin Smith got a little bit up his own aura and said, if they like, black and white slumber, slackers talking about sucking 37 dicks, let's give them, was it who was that? It was the Jennifer Lopez or something in one of his movies. Like, no, man. Like, was that Jersey Girl or something?
I'm not sure.
So bad. It was his attempt at like romantic comedy, and had like Jennifer Lopez,
wait a second.
Ben Affleck, and it was like oh no, like maybe not Ben Affleck. I don't know, but it was not.
No, it had Ben Affleck. It had Ben.
It had Ben Affleck.
What is that? What is that? Kevin Smith movie, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. What is the name of that movie? Come on. Okay.
You asking me?
No, I was asking the chat. I was asking people in the YouTube chat right here. Okay. I know the people listening to the podcast feed afterward are like, what chat? This is also a live show on YouTube and also on Spreaker. Some people do catch it live there as well sometimes. It's kind of weird there. Anyway, what about...
I think Jersey Girl, but it was not good. So.
What about his hillbilly aesthetic? Come on, man. He's totally a hack. Look at him. He dresses up like a hillbilly. Come on.
Yeah, it's funny because he's from New York too. I have to forgive him that because literally everybody from any place but Texas or from the South thinks that we're all like that anyway. So it's kind of like us dressing up as the Avengers for Halloween. You just kind of assume that that's how it looks.
Look, I mean, someone who grew up in
have you read Stephen King? Like, no, seriously, have you read Stephen King?
Yes.
So I love Stephen King. Not gonna knock Stephen King, but every Stephen King book has a redneck, gun-toting, psychopath cop guy who's like the epitome of like he's the brown uniformed sheriff in like 70s cop shows.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely insane, and he has 40 guns, and he ends up getting killed like real fast because he's just so dumb. I don't think Stephen King's ever been to Texas, or if he has, like that's where he got his idea. But like he's at least got one of those guys, and they're all in Maine. But like where do you get a deep South? Texas Texas state trooper sheriff running the streets of Derry, Maine, or whatever. But he's got it in every book because he has an idea of how people live that are not in his little town. That's Zombie. The difference is Zombie actually puts on the uniform.
Now, that's an argument a lot of people say is that Rob Zombie needs to lose that hillbilly aesthetic. Now, I'm from the South. You and I both know we're from the South, and I used to live in a trailer. I do kind of like that trailer park aesthetic. The trashy hillbilly stuff. That's something that I kind of put on the MrDeadman character. I would if I could do it more, but I have a day job. I can't just grow up my dreads or whatever. I could maybe trash it up every now and then, drink some like Tall Boy Lone Star or something. But that's.
I had to retire from Lone Star, man. That stuff messed with my emotions.
With your emotions.
Yeah, there used to be. It's probably still there. There used to be this after hours club in downtown. It's called Not So, and for the long story of Not So is Houston spelled backwards. And in the 1920s, it was an actual club, and it became a speakeasy. Well, this gentleman back in the late 80s bought a downtown building for like $20,000, and it was this it's a good sized storefront in downtown. And the bottom floor used to be retail, and the second floor was a warehouse for women's shoes. And when he bought it, it was full of shelves of women's shoes of different sizes, and had mannequins, all this cool stuff from the 40s. And then he ended up building an apartment on the third floor, and then you could crawl up and go out on the roof, and he had chickens and such.
Okay,
well,
cool.
Back in the day, when downtown was actually thriving, so early 2000s, I guess, it became a speakeasy again. So when the bars would close, if you knew the guy at the door of the bar downstairs, or you knew somebody upstairs, you could get in, and you could get in up to the apartment and sit around and drink with the guys all night. They'd have parties, and it was really neat. But the whole like speakeasy aesthetic was completely built on what they would have been in like Chicago in the 20s, New York in the 20s. We thought we were cool. We probably were, but you get into places and you go.
Yeah, I mean, so I could. This sounds pretty cool. Pretty cool scene.
It was nice.
Okay, but I'm gonna get back on track here.
Let's
Okay, the okay, Rob Zombie a hack. Let me look at some arguments people have here real fast because I know he's a hack. God damn it, I know he's a hack. Okay, how about this? How about this? How about this?
I stumped you.
No. He's a total hack. How about this? Halloween remake or Halloween? Which one would you rather watch?
Halloween. John Carpenter.
See, boom.
That's my favorite horror movie ever. So,
he's a hack.
well.
See?
Yeah.
Okay, how about this one?
Fair enough.
Halloween remake or H2O?
That's hard.
How about a Halloween Resurrection?
Yeah, Halloween remake is better.
See, it's funny. Rob Zombie gets a lot of shit for the remake, but man, the Halloween franchise has been making bombs with come on, man. But okay,
it's true, man. Like I got no problem dogging on the Halloween franchise. The Halloween remake, man. And I mentioned this in a review of a movie I had to write because it was like when you go into like indie film sort of stuff is the further away you get from a top-notch studio and you pull down, the less editing there is. There's fewer people to look over your shoulder and say that maybe this isn't a good idea. So in a thing like Halloween, it's like the Halloween remake, for all intents and purposes, you took a classic like Jaws, right? But then you take a shit-ass sequel like Jaws the Revenge, which explains that there's some kind of a grudge between the shark and his family, right? And you try to bolt those two movies together. And that the horror of the shark in the first Jaws is because he's pissed off because of something. And that's what's Halloween. It's like the whole thing that was frightening about Michael Myers is that Michael Myers was anybody in any town on any street. He was a 5-year-old kid that just woke up one day and stabbed his sister for no reason.
That's true. And see, this thing.
We don't
even John Carpenter.
We don't need the explanation.
Like I say, even John Carpenter kind of shat on Rob Zombie's version. He called Rob Zombie a shithead for apparently saying that John Carpenter liked his version. And he's like, no, I never said that. I don't like your version because you kind of, you beefed him up too much and you kind of explained too much of Michael Myers because now he's no longer this mystery. Now we know he's like this fucked up kid.
Yeah. And so that was that. I mean, you take off the front half of the Halloween remake and you throw that in the trash, then it's Halloween almost reshot, and it's not that bad. I mean, it's extra violent, and there's more kills and there's more blood. Mm-hmm. The second half of Halloween is not bad.
I will give you that. Halloween. I will give you definitely that. Like the second half, and some people complain about that it's just overshot the same thing that John Carpenter did it. I look at that like Rob Zombie's trying to make what he liked, and I guess he liked that sort of thing. Is he, or was Rob Zombie quoted saying he doesn't like slashers, or does he like slashers? I'm not sure.
I don't remember. All I know is with Zombie specifically, he likes that gritty 70s art house, almost rated X. I mean, like sweaty. Like he likes to zoom in on like sweat glands and weird and flies landing on stuff, and it's like I get it. I understand the aesthetic because obviously if it didn't exist, somebody would create it, and a lot of people have done it. Even Quentin, like I mentioned Tarantino before, like he's got that weird foot fetish. Right? Like there's stuff that is filmed, and sometimes it's filmed well, and sometimes it's not filmed well. But to me, like when you say he's a hack, okay, fine. except for if he was truly a hack. Like, what would make me turn around and be like, yeah, you're right, he's a hack. Today, he makes the movies he wants to make. He almost shoots for an X rating, which he knows can't sell. He bitches online about how he's got to cut so much good shit out of it in order to achieve an R rating, which is also probably not going to sell because it's going to be a really hard R rating because it's a Rob Zombie movie. Like, he's playing in that weird 70s, like the difference between like snuff films, like Cannibal Holocaust and like New York Times Square porn theaters. Like,
right.
That's where he wants to live, and that's where he lives.
And I got to tell you, it's hard with the latest movies he's been working on. If you look at even if you include House of Thousand Corpses, of Devil's Rejects, and you skip to Halloween and Halloween 2, it's hard to say that. It's hard to use, oh, he's a sellout, he's a hack, other than, oh, he definitely takes inspiration from Texas Chainsaw Massacre or The Last House on the Left or other movies he's seen. Like, you can kind of see the emulation and inspiration in Devil's Rejects and stuff. But a lot of directors do that, right? I mean, a lot of directors do that. In fact, I know, you know what's funny? I know people who call him a hack. And one of them's been on the show, I'm not going to name any names. But he himself emulates another director that he looks forward to, that he tries to emulate. So it's like, that's funny. You just called Rob Zombie a hack, even though you just said you want to make a movie in the style of this particular Italian director. Okay, aren't you doing the same thing, bro? You know.
And like I said, what would change my mind if it would be like, you know, and I said Love Actually earlier, right? It would be like, okay, the sequel to Love Actually called Love Seriously, and it's recorded by, you know, Robert Zombie. And you're like, okay, so what is this? And then you watch the movie, and it's filmed similarly to the original Love Actually. And it's like, okay, this is a great little, you know, Christmas movie that makes the ladies happy. And then you find out later that it's Rob Zombie having filmed it, and he just did it for the money, and he used his talents and his, you know, connections to make a movie that's completely not him.
That would be
just for a paycheck.
That'd be a sellout. I mean, it
would almost kind of be awesome because, you know, I would fucking go see that movie. But at the same time,
only if he makes it Rob Zombie though. He has to put the Rob Zombie stamp. There has to be someone demented. There has to be someone saying, "I'm going to skull fuck you," or there has to be something there that's Rob Zombie. Maybe a hillbilly.
It would have to be Sherry Moon outside the Macy's in Times Square, like screaming, like she's a meth head screaming something, and that they're the ones they walk by as they walk into the safety of the store, and security goes and gets her or something. But
or maybe the Devil's Rejects cast comes by. Oh well, you can't have all of them because Sid's no longer with us. But you could have two of them. You could just have them drive the van by, looking for Tutti fucking Fruity. You know,
I think it would work. But yeah, I mean, that would make him a hack if he was shooting mainstream movies just for the money. Then sure, if he was writing mainstream movies just for the money. Now, again, with Halloween 2, because I did not enjoy Halloween 2. And I'm a big fan of horror movies. I don't like violence, doesn't really bother me, but there's certain point of violence where, and it happens with Hostel, and it happens with like Saw and some of those things where it's like, okay, if you're writing a story to make me scared and you're using violence in order to get me scared, okay, fine. Like, shit, that was some scary violence. If you're using violence as almost like a fetish, like, oh, here's some violence to soft, you know what I mean? Like, it's weird. But like if you're glorifying the violence, or you're making the violence soft and extra bloody just for the sake of making the people suffer more, I'm not really into it. I mean, I understand why you do it, but not so much. I'd rather you jump scare me, I guess. But the the level that he goes to make shitty movies because he wants to make them puts him more on the artist category than the hack category.
Yeah, so making shitty movies is different from just being a hack, right? I mean,
Well, no, you can be a hack and make shitty movies, but you can also be you can also make great movies and be a hack. For me, like I said, he pretty much knows that the movies he makes are unwatchable, but they are what he wants to make.
now aren't
So
these movies the same thing over and over again? More
absolutely,
clowns, more violence on top of violence, more cynical clowns. No real story other than just for the violence. Like he could frame a shot. He can capture violence and gore. He's good at that. But is he more? Does he kind of like not care about the story?
I don't think he does that much. Again, I think he's trying to find a way. He's trying to build those building blocks of recreating the magic of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
All right,
That's what he's going after.
Let me ask you. So a director who's like, "Hey, man, this scene would look awesome." Okay, and then this scene's gonna look awesome, and then we're gonna have this scene, extra clowns. We're gonna have a midget in this one, and we're gonna have a midget with a chainsaw. Maybe comes out, maybe he has a dildo on him. I don't know. And it's more blood, and it has more clowns, more blood, and my wife is gonna be in there, and people are like, "Well, what's the story?" We'll just put it all together somehow. Is that a hack, or is that someone who's? I mean, is that a hack?
So, have you ever seen Lords of Salem?
No, I have not seen that one. I heard that one was pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. But unlike most of his other movies, there's a novelization of it. So there's a book that's written by Rob Zombie with another author.
Wait. Rob Zombie wrote a book?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I gotta read that. Is it good?
No. Hold on.
Wait. The book is no good? Why would I want to read that? Oh, I want to read that to review it. I'm gonna read the Lord of Salem book. How big? How many pages?
I said hold on. I didn't mean I was leaving forever. You said I got a video. There's the Lords of Salem. It's probably backwards.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I got it. Lords of Salem. Okay.
So
is it a good read or bad read?
It's not very good.
It's better than the movie?
You can see how thick it is. It is pretty much just a prose screenplay. It's a prose version of the screenplay. It's a written version of the movie. And the movie is about a woman who's descended from a family of witches that were killed in the Salem witch hunt or Salem witch trials. And there's this heavy metal band called the Lords of Salem, and they arrive into town, and her life just goes haywire. Like, they're hunting her. They move in down the hall, and there's ghosts and all kinds of weird shit. And in the end, you find out she's not actually descended from the witches. She's descended from the witch hunters, and they just kind of fuck up the town and rip her apart, and then it's over. There's no, like, there's no, like...
Wasn't there a cartoon music video tied to the Lords of Salem?
I think there was, yeah.
Does Rob Zombie have anything to do with that? Because I remember seeing that, and I thought that looked pretty cool. And I thought that was the Lords of Salem movie was going to be like, but apparently not.
Okay, so if you take the Lords of Salem and you turn it into an 80-page comic book, yeah, it's pretty awesome. If you take the Lords of Salem and turn it into a 5-minute music video, hell yeah. You turn it into a 2.5-hour long movie or a 300-page novel.
300 pages? Oh, man. Okay.
326.
Wait. How bad is the book? Is it funny good, or is it like it's boring?
It is. It's.
Is it boring?
It's not boring. It just doesn't go anywhere. Like there's no. Like
That's
remember
not podcast material. I can't read that for fun. I gotta have it shocking.
When you're in English class and they're like, okay, so here's your intro, and then there's the rising action, and then the climax, and the falling action, and the end of the book. It's like that's pretty much how it goes. It's just kind of there until some ultra violence at the end, and then it's over. Oh yeah, and it stars Sherry Moon Zombie.
Oh
So
yeah,
she's the main
she has a lot of
character.
acting credits now because of Rob Zombie.
Hmm.
Okay, and Modern Medusa in the chat mentioned that she loves Rob. Also, oh, loves Salem, Lords of Salem, because it's so retarded.
That's a reason to love it.
I like that. I like that. Uh, okay.
So you're drinking scotch. What's your scotch?
Grangestone 12 year. Sounds more fancy than it actually is. It's actually the cheapest one I found at Total Wines. By the way, in the chat, I'll let you choose. One for Grangestone 12 year or two for Writer's Tears. And whichever one it is, that's going to be my next drink. Let's see.
Nice.
Now, guys in the chat, come on now. I'm kind of scraping bottom here for the arguments that prove that Rob Zombie is a hack. maybe we need to move to music because we covered Halloween and Halloween 2, and that, I have to say, is kind of like a weird part of his movie career. I mean,
It's an outlier for sure. I mean, even Halloween 2, like I said a couple of times, I don't like Halloween 2. I did not enjoy it because the violence seemed almost. It just seemed like he was having too much fun with it. It wasn't really supposed to be scary as much as it was just like, haha, I'm killing people, and which I don't know, seemed like Scream 4 or something, Scream 3. It was just kind of seemed dumb. When it comes to the music, though, man, like I said, I've been a fan. He's probably got a couple of records that I haven't heard because I'm an old fart with kids, and there's only so much Rob Zombie I can jam without getting in trouble. But like I said, seen him live several times. If he comes back around, I'll go see him again.
But musically, come on now. Let's be honest here, okay? Because you're a very nice guy, being very generous. You're very generous with your praises here. You must have a big heart. But we all know White Zombie is better than Rob Zombie. Come on now.
No disagreement here. White Zombie was lightning in a bottle. If it wasn't for those other band members, especially with the bass player Shauna Salt.
Yeah, and wasn't Rob Zombie dating her?
He was, and they broke up, and he booted her from the band. But Jay Younger was an amazing guitar player. Probably still is. Haven't kept up with him. Can't remember the name of the drummer, but he was insane too.
Tempesta, right? Because didn't he? Did that same drummer moved over to Rob Zombie, right? He was the drummer for Rob Zombie for a little bit.
Yeah, they. I mean, a lot of them kind of flipped around, but Zombie seems hard to work with, and I don't know how many instruments he plays because I've been in bands with like jackass members who are highly talented, but then I don't know what other than.
Wait, Rob Zombie plays an instrument?
I don't know if he does. I really don't know.
Well, that might come on now.
I know. Well, for example, we talk about Rob Zombie, right?
Yeah.
So I saw Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson several years ago, and I was excited for the show because I like both acts, but Manson completely phoned it in. It was boring as hell, just sucked. And I was like, Jesus Christ, man, I spent a lot of money on these tickets, and this sucks. And then Zombie came out and just nailed it, like completely redeemed the entire experience. So love Zombie.
So you're telling me
Manson I could throw aside, but I don't know about Zombie if he can play a lot of instruments. I know that Marilyn Manson can play a shitload of instruments. Like he can play keyboards and drums and guitars and.
Are you telling me that Rob Zombie is more about putting on a show than Marilyn Manson?
Big time.
Rob Zombie, the person that everyone calls as a hack, everyone says a hack and doesn't care. He's more about putting on a show than Marilyn fucking Manson?
Dude, have you ever seen either one of those guys live?
I've seen him live. I don't want to go to Marilyn Manson because I don't want him to put his crotch in my face.
So yeah, man, I saw Marilyn Manson at the Abyss of all places at his club show in like the early '90s. Like they nobody knew who they were. They were still in Florida, and so this dude I worked with had a mixtape and he was like, "Hey, listen to this band," and it had some like demos of Marilyn Manson, and I I swear to God, I had the record before I went to the concert. But regardless, I saw Marilyn Manson at this really tiny club show in off of Washington. This place called the Abyss, and there was like 50 people, 60 people there. I mean,
Okay.
and it was an
Let
awesome show.
Let me try to get some perspective here. Let me try to get
And
some
then,
perspective
like
here.
a year later, they were in stadiums, and he was on the Tonight Show
Okay.
and stuff. So,
And I'm gonna have the chat ask some good questions here. Okay. Because a live performance is great for a metal band. If you can't do a live performance, then what are you even doing? I mean, come on. Let's rate them. Slipknot live. I've not seen them live. I've seen the videos. They seem fucking crazy live. How does Slipknot live compare to Rob Zombie live?
I've never seen Slipknot live.
Okay.
Slipknot was a little bit after. I was a little older when Slipknot came out, so I wasn't hitting the live shows. I was trying to pay rent.
Okay. Now,
you know what I mean?
What about Rammstein? Have you ever seen Rammstein live? I mean, those videos.
I've never seen them live. I've seen videos of the live shows.
Okay.
They're insane.
They are insane, my friend.
Now,
Their music not that advanced. I mean, you could pick up a guitar and your first song could be a Rammstein song.
of course.
But they play with their guitars on fire. They love fire. They live and breathe fire. How does Rob Zombie live compare to Slipknot live? Just based on what you saw.
But as far as the other bands, I don't know. What I saw was I've seen Rob Zombie or White Zombie in club shows, Rob Zombie in stadium shows. I've seen Marilyn Manson in club shows and stadium shows. I've seen like my entire hobby was in the mid to late 90s and into the early 2000s was going to shows, playing shows, being at shows, seeing live acts. I've seen every club show and every mainstream show come through. Rob Zombie's probably in the top 10 of shows in general. Like
now,
there's insanity.
I love
But the
fire.
thing is, what I'm talking about, the contrast between Manson and Zombie was Manson came out, and of course this is 20 years after his prime. So Manson got famous in like 1995, 96, something like that, right? the Twins of Evil show was in like 2014, 2012, 2013, 2014, something like that. So we're talking like a good 15 years separated from the prime to the now. And Manson walked out and he looked like an old guy in makeup that was lip syncing Marilyn Manson songs.
Oh.
He was not having it. Like the lights barely came up. The band was on top of things. They were like, and he was like, yeah, what's up, y'all? So you're like, Jesus, this sucks. And I've seen bands like that before, and sometimes they're sick, and sometimes they're tired, and sometimes I don't know where they are because of drugs. I get it. They packed up shop, and they went backstage, and they closed down. And my wife and I are literally like, okay, fuck it. Like, let's stay for the first couple songs of Zombie and see if this gets any better. And if it doesn't, we could probably still catch some of our friends over at this bar. And then Zombie came out, and the lights came up, and everything turned into this massive psycho circus. Like, he had these giant rock'em sock'em robots. He had fire. It was...
So he does have fire. He has a lot of pyrotechnics. I love fire.
Yes.
Okay, I love explosions. I'm
big
a huge,
fire.
big American here. I love explosions.
He had this giant keyboard podium thing made out of bones that he stood up and preached from. He had part of the pit on the floor blocked off, and he walked around all the way to the back and like gave people high fives and sang a song and rode in the pit. Like this dude is a showman, and it showed because he had. And it would have been awesome anyway, but the fact that he completely caught and tossed back that shit show that was Marilyn Manson was equally impressive. Because we were like, man, we're out. This sucks. Then he completely saved it. So, gotta give it to the Zombie man. He's awesome.
I gotta tell you, I did plan for this. I did plan to go hard on trying to prove that he's a hack. And I asked you questions, and you've been able to rebuttal them. And other than Halloween 2, we could kind of dig into that more, but it's still like, there's interviews where he was like, like I said, even before he did Halloween, he wasn't really interested in doing remakes, and then, money calls, opportunity calls, change his tune. And that might have been him just, it was a career decision. Okay. And I gotta say, I'm looking at here at the poll. I did a poll here on the YouTube channel here. Is Rob Zombie a hack? And yes is 56%. No is 44%. So I'm guessing the yes would probably have to do with, I guess, the style of his movies and maybe their feelings about Halloween and Halloween 2.
Probably.
I mean, if we're to dig a little bit more than that, I guess, like, how did you feel about Michael Myers now being white trash?
I didn't like knowing anything about Michael Myers at all. Yeah. Like, to be honest, in the original Halloween, whenever she pulls off his mask and he's, obviously she just poked him in the eye. So he's kind of just like dead-eyed and choking. But it bothered me whenever she pulled off his mask, because to me, that actually humanized him a little bit. And I just preferred it not being that way. It just seemed better somehow when he has no face. And that may be just me, but I don't like knowing the backstories of things. I do like knowing the backstories of things, but not
like Jason. Jason has an interesting backstory. Very simple though. You don't.
I don't like knowing more about a character than I need to. I don't like them whenever they're trying to make them sympathetic.
Right.
Like if you were to make if Rob Zombie were to make a remake of Alien, and they go back, or Aliens or something, and they go back to the aliens' home planet and find out that they're actually little soft and fluffy bunnies that, due to like human intervention, make them arm up and acid blood out and then just like go fly into space to fuck shit up. Be like, you know what? I didn't need to know that.
Yeah. No, if Rob Zombie did it, he would make the xenomorphs like white trash, like in trailers or whatever. The reason why they hate people.
I think white trash is it really is kind of an easy target.
It's what he does. I don't understand the draw that he has towards it, especially since he grew up in New York and like in suburbs or whatever. I mean, I grew up in the trailer park, or in the trailer, and it's like, I don't get his draw towards it. I guess to him it's curious. It's like interesting. It's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of things people find interesting. I don't follow sports. I'm like, so that guy chased a bag of air across the field for 4 freaking hours, and you got a whole bunch of beer commercials in, and now you're happy. Mm-hmm. And now you're not happy because the guy with the bag of air went to the right instead of the left. Like,
hey, you what you want to say about sports, man? You're gonna be pissing people off.
I don't mind. I'm just
messing with you. So what I'm getting here, it sounds like a lot of people don't like Rob Zombie because the quality of his movies or the type of movies he makes. And I gotta agree with you. You're right. He especially the later ones, he makes movies he wants to make clearly because. With like 31, and I haven't seen the 3 from Hell. I've not seen that, and but it's like
I have not heard good things about it either.
It's like he really just wants to make his vision, which is wild. It's Rob Zombie. It may not have much of a story. It's definitely violence over everything else, but that seems to be his thing. And
well, have you heard 30 from Hell? Like, they survived somehow, right? Like, that was the thing, was they didn't actually die in that shootout. They survived and were in jail. And to me, that is the worst thing that you have done, especially if you're calling your movie 3 from Hell. Like, it would have been so much better if they would have, like, crawled, like that whole scene from Raising Arizona where John Goodman's crawling out of the prison hole. Like crawling out of the cave or something. But to just be like, yeah, they didn't die. We actually sent them to the hospital and made them better and then put them in jail. And then they escaped somehow all at the same time. And now they're on the run again. Like, that just, come on, man. And then you name your movie 3 from Hell. Like, no. Like, yeah, I don't know. I can say, hey,
Well,
Anybody watching the end of this, I will proudly say I have not seen that movie because I heard precisely that was that they didn't come back from the grave like part 6 Jason from hell. They survived somehow and then just were like, yeah, let's go
get some
be
tutti
assholes
frutti,
some more.
tutti fucking fruity again or something.
let's go be
No,
assholes some more.
yeah. Ah, okay. And Devil's Rejects is like his favorite movie. That's the one people say is like Rob Zombie's best. Devil's Rejects, right there.
It
Um,
it was, well, that's debatable. Because again, to me, that was just like, okay, it's ultra violence. It's trying to be serious Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but ah, it's it's my favorite of his movies. I guess is the best way to say it, but it's still not good.
A House of Thousand Corpses.
I think I liked House of a Thousand Corpses.
I like the. I liked when they went.
To me, it had that comic book aesthetic. It was unbelievable in the believable sort of way. Like I can put myself in that world and be like, okay, this is messed up, but turning the guy into like taxidermying the guy into the mermaid, and like there's just so much over the top that it makes for a great coming out of hell scene. Like there's just like everything here is messed up, but it's like a comic book. When you go to Devil's Rejects, it's like, okay, now we're in Texas Chainsaw Massacre land, and everything's bleak and dirty and violent and painful and shitty, and you've got road rat or monkey butt on your ass. And it's like, it's uncomfortable to watch. I don't feel happy watching this. I just feel like dread. It just kind of sucks.
My favorite part of House of Thousand Corpses is I think is in the third act when they flip the script and they go under the house and it's like this whole other scene. Like you have like Dr. Satan shit. I'm like, what the fuck is this? That's like the best part of the movie. That's the best part of the movie for
under
me.
there. That is the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Like everything's like a nighttime Chainsaw Massacre, and then it turns into this weird like evil fantasy movie. And that's what I loved about Rob Zombie. That's what I loved about his lyrics. That was a contrast for me about Marilyn Manson and so like again, early 90s you have Rob Zombie, or White Zombie. They release a record called Los Exorcisto Devil Music Volume 1. Okay? Like table that for a second, and then fast forward a couple years, then you have Marilyn Manson come out, and he, depending on who you want to listen to, like you've got a debut album, Antichrist Superstar, but he had another one called Portrait of the American Family that was an indie release that came out before that. Marilyn Manson's entire shtick, I mean, he had the candy stripe tights on, he had the big hat.
Yeah.
You remember Marilyn Manson with the bass player, the guitar player always had the doll dress on, and they were demonic, and they were demonic Americana. Okay, so then go back to Zombie, and he's demonic Americana, but the contrast, the difference between them is that Manson's shtick was serious. Manson's shtick was like a commentary on America and its state in the world and politics.
Right.
Whereas Zombie was like, hey, dude, old horror movies are awesome, and you should watch them.
Which I like that.
Here's some noise and some rat fink hot rod shit going on in the background.
Yeah.
And so like there was a similarity, but also a contrast, and people were like, oh, they're kind of in the same boat. It's like, no, because the one is literally watching Frankenstein, and the other is watching a documentary on Satanism. Like it's
right.
It's the one is way too serious, and one is just way too fun.
Okay.
And you can leave one or the other behind. And for me, it was like Manson was always like, he was too up his own ass to actually come out and have fun. And then like his message did not grow older with him, because now he's like now he's however old he is. Like I'm 44, so whenever guys like me were like in their 20s, if they followed the Manson message of like being a nihilist,
pretty much nihilist,
they're pretty much punk losers now.
Yep.
Like they're living in an apartment on welfare. If you bought into zombies message, you were drawing comic books and writing stories and like trying to do fun, cool shit. So like
I'll
there's
say
a
here.
difference. There's a difference in the message of the art, you know. So
I gotta say, I think we're kind of at the end here as far as the, I guess we would call it a debate or conversation whether or not Rob Zombie is a hack or not. I would say at the end is like, it's clear that Rob Zombie has a love of horror. He loves horror movies. He grew up watching them, and that much is clear. Like if you follow Rob Zombie's like history, it's pretty potent. Like he doesn't hide it. It's all over him. He loves horror. You might not like what he does anymore. You might think it's over the top or doesn't have much of a story, but he's doing his thing. It's kind of like that grindhouse B movie stuff. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But you can't say he doesn't respect it. At least he doesn't like it. Like he's doing what he likes. It's just that much. I guess I have to give it to him. He's doing what he likes. Man, I don't know, Billy. I think you kind of won me over.
well, and the thing is, like I said at the beginning, I don't like most of his movies because I like monsters. I like that was another thing that's kind of weird about Zombie is like if he were to make a Godzilla movie or something or a monster movie like The Thing, I think it would be amazing. But he's always into these like personality sketches of how sweaty and dirty somebody can get before they get their head cut off. And it's like not cool, man. I'm not interested in that. Like I don't want to smell the TV. Like it sucks. So like wake up and make a monster movie. Do something like do a cool ghost story. Do something fun that's also gripping and you have the ability to make it scary as well, right? Like I think he could be really good, but he doesn't because he wants to make Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You mentioned ghost stories. Now, if we want to talk hack horror movies, look at like remember the what was it? Paranormal Activity. Those movies, those are phoning it in.
The first one was awesome. The second one was just like, hey, that was awesome. Like, like put a monkey in a cabinet and have him push the cabinet open, and everybody will be like.
It was, to me, it was like, it seemed kind of sloppy. It's like, okay, you're going for these scares, you're going for these cheap scares. I mean, the first one, I guess, I suppose, I don't know. It just seemed too easy to do, you know.
To be fair, and again, you know, it's like. When the Blair Witch Project came out, it was in the early days of the internet, and they were the first kind of viral campaign. But I remember with the Blair Witch Project, like it was long before the movie actually came out. I had heard about it. I'd seen it somewhere on a flyer, something, and I typed it into my friend because I didn't have a computer at home. That's like I was like in my early 20s, whatever. Whenever I moved on my parents' house, I didn't have a computer, so I was just at home. Like I know a lot of people in the 90s were like that. So I was sitting like type in with like my little finger clicks on my friend's computer, like Blair Witch Project, and you click it, and it takes like a second for it to click over, and it brings you to the landing page for the Blair Witch Project, and all it says with no hyperlinks is the name of a city or the name of the town where it happened. And so then you open up a new window and you type in the name of the town, and it brings up like a town, like a chamber of commerce, like a population. It's this town in Maryland.
Mm-hmm. The advertising for that, the promotion was great. The promotion for the movie was great.
So now if you look at the way links work, it's like, oh man, I clicked on like 8 links before I saw what I wanted to see. Imagine having to take those and literally type them into the search bar and then go to the next step. And then finally it brings up and it's like, oh, there's these missing people and like there's a documentary about it.
And
like,
what's interesting too? That stuff is still going on with like in the creepypasta scene. There's like these weird monsters and creations that just kind of pop up and creepypasta spheres that kids just like search. My kid is one of them. Everything's Siren Head. Everything's Smile Room. I couldn't tell you what these things are.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's insane.
My kid's only like 6. I'm like, son, you're watching Siren Head? You're watching things that are like scare you at night? Don't come to my bed. Don't come to my bed. You're dealing with your own nightmares. You know?
You stay in bed, sweetheart. But yeah, dude, like, so I remember that. Like, the scariest thing about Blair Witch Project was the fact that it might be real. And people now would laugh, be like, it's so easily disproven. No, it wasn't, because we didn't have freaking links. You didn't have links to shit. You couldn't just like type in like false claim and have it have a Snopes show up. And like, if you typed in like whatever, like, because we're talking Halloween, I was like, if you want to type in Haddonfield, it's like murders. Like, that was what would pop up, and you're like,
right?
Holy shit, guys.
I mean,
you know, like,
that's great when you can have a horror movie that's like kind of has that element of realism to it. Like, could this be real? Could it be real? That's great. Maybe Rob Zombie can do that later on in his career. I don't know. That'd be nice if it wasn't just like gore-tastic fun, but it's what he enjoys. Okay. Before we wrap up, though, I just want to make sure you get a chance to plug your stuff again, because
okay.
All right. So you said you had a book that was sent to KDP, but they had a problem with it.
Yeah, so I have got a book that is a compilation of stories. So actually, I've got 2 books that are compilation of stories. So I've got a book that I was going to release in January called The End of All Things. And don't write that down, because that name has changed. And it was going to be somewhere around 21 stories that I've written over the last couple of years. Several of them have been published in multiple anthologies. And it was going to be somewhere around 80,000 words, because some advice that I got was that a longer book sold better than a shorter book when it came to horror collections. Well, then I got with a different editor, and she was like, whoa, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah, that should be broken into at least 2, maybe 3 books. Don't do that. So I cut it in half, because the first half was actually linked together. All the stories kind of went together. They were meshed together. So it's not a novel, but the individual short stories connect.
Okay.
I got all of that stuff done, and it was supposed to be released tomorrow. Actually, it was supposed to go into pre-order tomorrow, but I ordered the proof copies of the paperback from Amazon like 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. Few days ago, Amazon said, well, we lost your package, so we're giving you a refund. To which I had to reply, well, wait a second, those were proof copies of a book that hasn't been released yet. How do you mean you just lost it? So I had to call Amazon's customer service. They're like, yeah, it was supposed to go south. Instead, it went north. We don't know where it went. If we find it, we'll send it to you.
Wow.
Otherwise, like,
so when you put this book on Amazon, did you go through like KDP or something, or you
it's through KDP, and so the proofs are supposed to show up tomorrow. If I get the book and everything looks right and there's no blank pages, I'm gonna open it up. But anyway,
pages,
it's called The Moonlit Road, and it is a story of a strange highway that runs through the back roads of Texas, and all of the sort of things that get woken up by the people who travel upon this road. I've got another book coming out around Halloween. I haven't titled it yet, but they're gonna kind of market each other. That as soon as the cover comes in, I will have a update. In the meantime, man, go hit up, if you go to Amazon, look up William Stewart, author. Actually, if you're on video, look up The Tavistock Galleria. This is a book that I edited. And the reason I'm saying this is because this book, the William Stewart that is linked to that book, is me. If you look up William Stewart all willy-nilly, you will find a nephew of Adolf Hitler that talked about all kinds of crazy Egyptian conspiracy theories, and I'm not that guy.
You're not that guy.
So
You're not
And
the
I'm not
nephew
that
of Adolf Hitler.
this guy. I'm this guy. And I want to. I didn't know that before I decided not to use a pen name. So,
hey, hey.
so the Adolf Hitler guy, not me.
Not you, not you. Okay, okay. It happens. Man, I think if you look up my name, I think you might find someone who is kind of alt right. I'm not sure. It's not me. Not me. Not me. I'm not. I have an author I work with. His name is Tony Evans. He was like, "Man, Jesse, when I search your name, I got this racist alt right guy. Is that you?" He's like, "No. What the hell are you talking about?" I have no idea what he's talking about either, because I this is the only thing I do, the podcast and some videos. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. Anyway, all right, and you have 2 podcasts. You have Scary Dads and It's Awesome.
It's called You Know What's Awesome.
You know
it starts
what's
with
awesome.
a Y.
You know
what's awesome. But yeah, we're there every week, every Tuesday, new episodes. Find us, Scary Dad, and You Know What's Awesome.
All right. Well, Billy Stewart, it was great having you on the show and talking about you and Rob Zombie. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comment section what you think. Is Rob Zombie a hack or not? And why? I was going to open the show to callers, but my fault. I didn't do the group Skype thing correctly. If I did, I could just drop the link. Anyway. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, y'all take it easy and y'all have a good one.